Hey guys, today we're back and we're going to be looking at another helmet. I have previously looked at the Porter Cable welding helmet and the Antra welding helmet, and today we're going to be looking at the Hobart Inventor. That is the lens, so the auto darkening lens is called the Inventor. I think the lower tier one below this one is called the Engineer. I think maybe it's the higher tier, but I don't know. But they have another lens called the Engineer, but I do know. And the Engineer, the Creator, I think, and the Inventor. Um, what we have here today is the Inventor right here, and this is the Forerunner shell. I think that's what it's called. It's the this like patriotic sort of theme. So we're going to be taking a look at this, showing off how to take the lens out and everything. So yeah, this is the Forerunner shell. I'm pretty sure that's the name. The Inventor lens, and I really like this helmet. There's some things that I don't particularly like about it, but there's some things that I do like about it. First of all, I really like the lens, and the auto darkening lens. I really like it. Of all the welding helmets that I have this one. I have the Porter Cable, the Antra, and I have a Miller Classic VSI. Of all of them, I like this one the most, and I'll show that off later. We're actually doing some welding, but I but I really like the lens. That is the one thing I really love about this. The graphic on this, I don't really care. I'm not the biggest fan of graphics, but this one isn't too bad. It's not like gaudy, but I it's fine. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it's just fine. But coming to the back, obviously you have your parts list in here for your lens cut, your outside clear lens, and this inside clear lens. All the things that you might need to buy. I think this piece of leather for the headgear is like third party, I guess you could say, or an add-on, because I did get this used. I got it at a thrift store for about $35, which is an amazing deal because this helmet, this version with the graphic is about 120, I think, which for a budget helmet, like, or I should say more intermediate level, this is a very nice helmet. I really recommend this helmet. It's very nice. I like the looks of it. The graphic is okay. I love the lens, but the downside to this one, at least, I don't know if it's just because it was previously used or what, but I hate the headgear. It does not have any sort of grip. Like, these are super tight. The side knobs, like, they're very tight, but I do not like the headgear. It does not stay up. Me personally, I like to pull my helmet down. I don't like to flip it, like jerk my neck and flip it down. I just don't like doing that. I don't want to wear out my neck because I just don't want to wear my neck doing that. I don't like, bending over and then it constantly like falling down. So, and this headgear on this helmet is not good. I don't like it. So yeah, I am not a fan of the headgear, but overall, for a intermediate, more budget style helmet, it is very nice. If I could take the headgear out of the Antra here, and put it into this, I would, because it has an amazing lens and I really like it. But the headgear just sucks. Just the usage of the like logistical part of using it, the day in and day out of having it in my head and keeping it up with the headgear, like it can't even support its own weight hardly. Like, I'm not a fan of that. I like it to stay, when I flip it up, it stays up. This helmet does not do that. I have had these side knobs cranked down very tight, and it still doesn't support its own weight, me personally. But that might be perfect for some people that like to do, like, flip their hood down, like do the like hood flip, but I don't like to do that. So enough talking about that, because that's just a personal thing. Let's get on to what everyone really wants to see, is how does it actually look when you're welding. So yeah. So this is what we're going to be welding on today. I have a couple more pieces over to the side, but we're gonna just weld this one today. I found these big pieces of, I think, 3/16 at my college, and we're just gonna weld up this gap and make just a big plate out of it, because you can see here on the sides that some kids started to do a pad of beads, but I guess they just decided that they weren't good enough to just keep filling up the plate and both sides of the plate, because they're completely perfect. And I found 4 of them, so I have two behind me and these 2 right here. Obviously they're not cut perfectly, and we'll just do some welding. I think I'll just put a bead over top of it and then flip it over into a back weld, to get full penetration through this, because the welder I'm running absolutely sucks. It's a story for another day, but this is my ground clamp. But we're going to be running 6011 at 16th inch electrodes for this, and they're from Hobart for our Hobart welding helmet. But yeah, this welder, it's not great, so I'll probably be struggling a lot with it, just fighting it a lot, but it'll be okay, just to show off how the lens looks on this welding helmet, and just to get our job done. It'll be plenty good. So let's get into that. So these welds aren't too bad, especially for what we're having to weld with. Like, just having so little power. Like, typically I think these 16th electrodes run from like 20 to like 40 amps. And I even got a box of 3/32 6011 rods to try to run on this machine, and I think it said like 40 to like 90, and this machine could not run it, so it's running probably like 20 amps or 20 volts or whatever. The machine even says like 65 to 70 amps, which that is a lie, because it would have been able to run a 3/32 when I tried it. It's just like barely even burning the 16th electrodes, but yeah, it makes decent welds. Like, you can see that you're not gonna get great penetration or a great like, just because they're 16th electrodes, you can't get a lot of there's not a lot of rod there, so you're not going to run long beads. So you're not going to be able to run long beads, because it has to deposit that metal, and has so little power that we can get close to coming to burning through. Like we had a fairly big gap. You can see that there's still a little bit left of that gap, but you just can't get that. Like all this, I'll have to back grind it just to even remotely get there, but I'll definitely grind a bigger gap on this side, because at the rate that this would go, like, no, I can't break it. I don't know why I even tried, but this welder just has so little power, and that's just a story for another day. But they still look cosmetically, these welds look okay. They're not great, but especially there where I struggled, but overall they're okay. So now I'll show you how to take this guy apart to like change the batteries and everything. So Obviously, for your headgear, you just take these side knobs off, and I'm not gonna bother with that. Just we can film like this. So there's this little switch right here. Unlock is that way, lock is that way. So you push that to the side, and now this will lift up, and this will rock out because you have these like hooked tabs right here. You can see the profile on them. These like hooked tabs, and they go into those things back there with those square holes. And this, I don't think that you just flex this up and then pull it out that way. And this is gonna fight me a little bit, but just gonna pull it out like that. And this one's a little dirty. So there's just the shell of the helmet like that. Then for this, obviously you have your auto darkening lens with the solar panel. So for this, there are these little like tabs here on the sides, and those just flex, and then that's how you get the batteries out. You can see right there are your batteries, but just push those back in. But you just flex these tabs, and I don't like how like aggressive they are because I feel like I'm gonna break them, like spreading them apart to push the actual lens itself out of this like bezel. But you can just see how aggressive those tabs are, like how much it actually engages. And yeah, you want this to stay in, you don't want it just slipping out, but I think those are just way too aggressive. And for how much, like how short, like how much these aren't like cut back, is that it's so stiff, is that I feel like I'm gonna break it. So I don't really do that. But obviously showed you that it takes 2 batteries. And this is where your low battery indicator is, obviously. And then your grind and weld, you just turn that, and you can probably see that it's adjusting when I do that. Then you have your delay, which is just a dial, and then you have your sensitivity, which is a dial, and then you have your shades, which is a dial as well. So that's how all that works, and I really like this lens. It is super nice to look through, as you guys probably could see. But like this, like I feel like I'm gonna break it just by pushing it, like trying to push it through that. I just feel like these are going to just break. So I just like push one side and then open it, like just being super careful so I don't just completely wreck it. But we'll admit that it holds it super tight and nice, but I'm just not a fan of it. So we'll get our lens back in like this. And of all my helmets, I've used this one the least, probably, because my welder here, it was down for a little while. That's why I could not weld for the Antra and the Porter Cable reviews, to show off how well their lenses are, how good their lenses are. But I just bought it just because it was there at the thrift store, because I used my Miller VSI for all of my welding, and you just hook that in, and then that just rests down like so, and then you push it over to lock it in place like that. But I didn't use this helmet a lot. The helmet that I've gotten the most use out of is my Antra. I've welded like a full year with it on. My Porter Cable, I welded about 2-3 months with it. And then my VSI, I've welded about half a year, 3/4 of a year with it. And I've welded with this guy just a couple of weeks. So this is definitely just more of a first impression on this helmet, and I do like it. I've welded it with it here, and at my college, which I've done a lot more welding, obviously. And I really like it. It's definitely a good budget/intermediate welding helmet, especially comparing it to the Miller Classic. because the classic lens is in my VSI helmet, and comparing the Inventor lens to the classic lens, maybe not a new classic lens, I bought my VSI used, but comparing a used classic Miller lens to this Inventor lens, I don't know how old my VSI is, and I don't know how old this helmet is. So I might be completely wrong on this. But comparing what I know and what I have, I really like this lens. I even took my classic lens out and I put this lens in my VSI by like shimming it and stuff, and that was perfect. I really liked it because the headgear is better on the VSI. It's not great, but definitely better than this helmet. But I really like it. It's, obviously it's plastic and it's more of a budget, intermediate style helmet. So it has a little bit of flex, but it's not bad. It's not like my Antra where it feels like, like rubber. And yeah, this lip catches spatter and stuff, especially if you're doing overhead. But you're not going to burn through this guy. Obviously, you'll scratch the graphic and everything, but overall, I really like this helmet. If the headgear was just better, I wouldn't be so upset with this thing. I am thinking about selling it because I don't really need it. I don't really use it, and I don't have any sort of reason to keep it around. I don't have any sort of like attachment to it or anything. The VSI, it'll probably get replaced someday, but for right now, it's my best helmet. And the Porter Cable and the Antra are just fine for what I do here. So it's just, there's not really a reason for me to keep this helmet around when I could sell it and get some money in my pocket instead of it just sitting here. But I'll just have to think about it and think on it. But overall, I really, really, really like this helmet. It's very nice. I would highly recommend it to anyone if you're going to go into a production setting, if you're going to weld at home and do stuff like that. It's definitely a budget-friendly option and could be used in a professional setting. If you like flipping your hood down, it's probably not going to hurt you, but if you're like me and you just like that helmet to stay up when you put it up, this helmet, at least the headgear, maybe they've upgraded it, maybe you could find an upgrade for it to get a better version, but at the state that this one is in right now, I am not a fan of it, just because if it doesn't stay up in my head, I'm not gonna like it. So that's sort of where I stand with this thing. I really recommend it, as I've said probably like a million times in this video, but I really like it. It's fairly good, especially for $120, especially comparing it to the Miller Classic. I don't know what Lincoln has for their more bottom budget version auto darkening helmet, but comparing this guy to my VSI, which has the classic lens, which a regular classic that isn't a VSI is about $100, $120, about the same price range as this guy. I would go for this any day of the week. If I could find it, if you can find an upgrade headgear, this is a very nice helmet. I could weld all day, every day for my entire life with this thing. But at the state that it's in now, with a horrible headgear and a very nice lens, I can weld through a horrible lens. I've had to do that a lot. I've welded through dirty lenses, poor lenses before, but they always stayed up on my head, and that's the one thing that aggravates me the most. I'll weld through anything, but if this helmet won't stay up on my head, I'm not going to be a great fan of it. So that's really all I have to say, and just as you can probably see, has 4 arc sensors, and obviously your and everything. So once again, just reiterating that it's a very nice lens. If you could find a helmet, and it has a bunch of graphics just like the Miller Classic, so you get to choose if you want a plain black, if you want this guy, the Forerunner, or anything. This is a very good option for professional and home, more DIY friendly use. I really like it. It's a very nice helmet. So yeah, really recommend it. And if it's just very nice, I would recommend it. And Hobart is sold all over the place. You don't have to go to an Airgas or go online. You can go to a Tyson's, any place basically, because a lot of retailers sell Hobart stuff. I know Home Depot sells Lincoln, but Tyson's, I know Tyson's is at a lot of places, probably Tractor Supply. These are nice helmets, and you can find them at a lot of retailers in person. You don't have to get online or go to a weld shop or a weld store. You can find this guy at a lot of places. So yeah, that's what I have to say. So till next time, see ya.